Call the meeting to order. City of Anamosa City Council meeting, regular session, Monday, January 27th, 2019, 6 p.m. City Hall Council Chambers. 1.0 roll call.
Crum,
Here.
Smith,
Here.
Mockhart,
Here.
Zumba,
Here.
Stout.
Here.
2.0 pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Not too far anyway. Maybe later.
3.0 motion to approve the minutes from the following meetings. 3.1 January 13th, 2020 regular council meeting.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Motion by Rich, second by Alan to approve minutes as submitted. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries unanimous. 4.0 public hearing, none. 5.0 proclamations, none. 6.0 old business. 6.1 resolution to fill city council vacancy by appointment until special election on March 3rd, 2020.
We didn't receive any letters by the deadline we set, but we did receive one shortly after. That was included in your email today.
So Galen Capron was the only one then who showed any interest in filling that vacancy, even though it was after the deadline?
Correct.
And how far after the deadline did you receive it?
22 minutes.
Okay. Well, with that, I then would make a motion to appoint Galen Capron to fill the vacancy until March 3rd.
I'd second that.
Any other discussion? Any public comment on 6.1? Motion was made by Rich, second by Alan, to accept Galen Capron to fill the vacated position until the March 3rd special election. All those in favor signify with aye.
Let's
roll
Oh,
call.
I'm sorry, it's a roll call.
Stout,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Mockhart,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Crum.
Yes.
6.2, amended resolution forming committee to oversee the design and implementation of the Old Dubuque Road extension to Parham Drive and closure of the Old Dubuque Road 130th Street intersection with US Highway 151.
Clarify, this is just to make some minor changes to the resolution we already passed. The county, after further review, wanted to make some changes so that they could have two elected officials on the committee and make sure that the DOT was formally included. So otherwise, it's pretty much the same.
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
And your motion is to carry over from the previous, Rich?
Right, because
Individuals.
we're just gonna keep the same individuals, but
Yeah.
adopt the new increase in number.
Does the council need any further discussion on the motion on the floor? Does the public have any comment on 6.2? It's a roll vote.
Yeah, I will say one thing though, I would really appreciate that the committee listen to and ask for input from the community and from different sectors of the community as they work forward.
I got a question. I was wondering if we shouldn't include the department heads on this because of the sewer and water and street, things that may be affected by the decisions that we make.
I think they can have input throughout. I don't know that they need to be on the committee itself, but they can always attend and have their input.
Because there's only eight
There's
total,
a-
correct? From the
Yeah.
city
Yeah.
and the county.
Right.
6 total from the city and county, and then 2 from the DOT. And yeah, I think they'll be working with and involving a lot of people in the community, so, but to keep the core group, the deciding group small, I think will make it more effective.
Anything additional?
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Lockhart.
Yes.
6.3, presentation by Mike McKee, MI2 Operating Systems LLC on the operations assessment conducted on the water and wastewater departments.
I don't see Mike present. So I guess I'll get in further touch with him, but I guess my only comment would be later in the bills section, there's a bill included for payment, assuming that we would have received the hard copy report tonight, and since we haven't, I would recommend that we pull that from the group before we approve it.
I would like to entertain a motion to table 6.3 until more information can be provided.
So moved.
Second.
Any public comment on 6.3? Motion's been made by Kay, second by Rich, to table content of 6.3 until additional information can be provided to us. All those favored signify with aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries unanimous. 7.0, new business. 7.1, discussion and possible action on making appointment to the Planning and Zoning Commission to fill vacancy.
We have a vacancy due to Mr. Stout being elected to the council. There aren't really any rules to how we go about making that appointment, but I guess I would recommend we follow the same procedure we did with the council vacancy, was just make it public notice, looking for interest, and then go from there.
You want a motion?
Please.
I suggest that we take applications to see if anyone wants to be on the zoning commission. And the end date should be 2 weeks? Or is that too soon?
I think 2 weeks is enough.
2 weeks from today will be February 11th. Excuse me, February 10th.
Do you wanna make him do the preceding Friday, or, I mean, that way we could consider them at our meeting on the 10th.
Okay, so what's the date on the Friday?
7th.
Okay, so the application should be due by February 7th.
how do you?
End of day, or?
Sure.
Just out of curiosity, I'll second that motion. How do you plan to get it out there? Are you putting something in the paper, Facebook,
I'll
on the
plan to-
website?
Plan to get it on the paper, but it won't get out till the 6th. But I'll also put it on the website and on Facebook as I did with the council
Okay.
vacancy.
Any public comment on 7.1? The motion by Kay, second by Rich, to go through the process of appointing for the vacancy on the Planning and Zoning Commission by the same means we looked at the appointment to the council vacancy. Have applicants submit, which will be due the 7th at end of business. Notifications will be through the paper, website, and Facebook. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. 7.2, presentations by outside agencies requesting funding for fiscal year 2021. There was a few of them requests in our packet, so I'll attempt to go down the list. Do we have representation from the area Chamber of Commerce? You can go first, Leanna.
Leanna Boone, the Chamber of Commerce Director. We're once again requesting funding of $12,500 from the hotel motel tax. The chamber uses that money for various things during the year. Our most important thing is we try to do things that are gonna benefit all of our members, but we also try to do things that'll benefit the entire town. We have events, Pumpkin Fest is the biggest one. It's a large expense, but it also brings in people even when it rains. Last year we got a new website, so we're still trying to get everybody on board with that. We've done classes, that we offer to our members and also non-chamber members that can come, and, we've done some Facebook marketing, some Facebook ads, just anything that people can use to benefit their businesses. We just had our annual dinner, which was well attended. This year we had a local nonprofit speak. Everybody seemed to enjoy it. And then we kind of helped them to get the word out there as to what they do for the town. So we appreciate your support so far. Thank you.
Does the council have any questions for Leanna? Second up, Grantwood Art Gallery.
Dick Dearborn, 600 North Williams, member of the Grantwood Art Gallery Board. As you can see by the letter written by our chairman, Bill Spersloggy, we're just asking for $4,800 again this year. No increase over last year. All volunteers, but our goal is to promote the Grantwood legacy in the Anamosa area and the arts in the Anamosa and Stone City areas. So we do believe that we actually bring people to town. You know, it's a destination because of us, or as a part of our efforts, I would say, I guess. So anyway, just ongoing efforts to continue our mission. So, questions?
Thanks, Dave. Next, we can hear from the National Motorcycle Museum.
Good evening, I'm Wayne Yonda with the National Motorcycle Museum. This year we are working on a building enhancement project for our front foyer area. As most of you know, the building used to be the original Walmart, and we believe the doors are original to the building, and they are certainly showing it. So we're asking for $12,960 to work on those and the concrete in front of the building. We bring in between 18,000 people a year. We updated our website last year, which is drawing a lot of traffic. And we host many events throughout the year, prom, the chamber dinner, recently 2 presidential candidates, maybe another this weekend. We'll be glad when caucus season is over. That's it, if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cedar Jones Early Childhood of Iowa. As you can see from their submission, they're requesting $1,000. Starlighters.
My name is Kevin Sims, and I am on the Board of Directors at Starlighters 2 Community Theater. I am also the chair of the Artistic Committee, and I would like to thank you all for having me here this evening. We, as a theater, we feel as though we are your hidden gem in this community because we strive to produce live, excellent live theater with the ongoing education of both our actors and directors. One thing that we've been lacking over the last 8 years is a kids program. We used to have the young people's theater, but that has gone by the wayside. So almost 3 years ago, we had Old Creamery Theater come in to produce a 1-week-long camp for children to attend, and at the end of that performance, at the end of that week, they would provide a performance. And we normally get a huge turnout when we have children involved with the theater. What that means is children have to come in for at least a couple hours a day all week. None of them are able to drive. So someone brings them here, they're shopping in our community, and they're partaking of some of the fine dineries that we have here. So what we are requesting is $3,000 to expand the program. Now this will be our 3rd year of having it, and the great thing about having it is we have one student who was given a scholarship. And she performed the 1st year, the 2nd year, but she loved the theater so much because she had that opportunity to perform as Starlighters that she was in this last winter's production of the Best Christmas Pageant Ever. She was awesome. There was a scene where she did not say a word for several minutes, had me in tears. Yes, I watched soap operas when I was young, and there are movies like Old Yeller that still make me cry. But this little girl was so awesome that we had 7 actors nominated by the Iowa Community Theater Association. She was one of them. She has a talent, and we like to bring more of that talent into Anamosa and provide this program for those to partake at Starlighters 2 Theater. Because other communities put this on, and they're charging over $100 to $150 per student. We keep our costs down to $60, and then committee members and other people of the theater will sponsor kids. With this $3,000, it will go a long way to help keep the expenses down so that we can continue to offer scholarships and bring forth new actors and help build this Starlighters 2 from 45 years to 50 years to 100 years. So I thank you for your time and your consideration. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Jones County Senior Center. Jones County Senior Center Dining is requesting $5,025, as indicated in their submittal. Jones County Economic Development.
Good evening, Derek Lumsden, Jones County Economic Development. We work a lot with the city, so it's one of the things that we try to come in and give regular updates or try to assist, especially with Jacob in the city office on some of the things that we can do Some of the things we worked on in 2019 specifically were the downtown assessment, which you now have the report for, as well as continuing working with Jacob and EasyCog on the CDBG application. So those are, obviously you're taking action tonight on the downtown assessment. The CDBG will be something you'll spend some time on the next couple of months as well as that gets ready for submittal. And so we'll continue to work with the city on those specifically and all the areas we can, as well as other areas such as last year we helped with Bennett. While we were unable to keep it open, we did work with those employees to try to find alternate employment so they could stay living and working in the area. So we do try, and moving forward, we'll be working with trying to market the Bennett building and trying to keep that, bring it back into a production-based facility. So there are a lot of other things we do as Jones County Economic Development, but I'm sure most of your interest and questions are probably related to what we do for Anamosa. So I'm interested in any questions you might have. Okay. On a last note, the office is working out great if you were curious. I appreciate that. So thank you.
Derek, I did not hear you, your request for 10,000 remain the same?
Yes. Sorry. Thank you.
Jones County Safe and Healthy Youth Coalition.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Hoosman. I'm the project coordinator for our coalition. I brought my basket of freebies here to give you, so if you'd like to see some of the things that we're actually doing to help reduce prescription drug abuse and other things. But first I'll hand you out, I accidentally copied this, meant to do a back-to-back, so I was quickly stapling right before I flew out the door. But so here's our case statement this year, updated with the new data, which was great news on a couple fronts of things we've been working on for a lot of years. We continued to see a huge decrease in 11th grade binge drinking and underage drinking, and also, even despite our culture, even the marijuana use went down in Jones County. So we were very thankful to see that. So you should have kept one for myself, but remember the numbers. You know, we started over 15 years ago, and I have been funded full-time through grants for the past 15 years until this March. Now our big grants are done. So you can only get, we got that first original grant that no longer exists for the schools to work on underage drinking, because we had an extremely high rate of underage drinking at that time. 52% of kids were reporting binge drinking in 11th grade. Now we're down to 7% if you had reporting in binge drink. So doubt the kids are that much, you know, different in their honesty and their anonymous answers than they were 15 years ago. So that's wonderful news. But we, at the same time, then we got the drug-free community grant after that, and we got that twice. You could get it 5 years, 2 times, and so that took us till March. We had a little extension money that we, or no-cost extension that we continued on. So then we were, at last year, I mentioned to some of you who were on the board last year that we were the only one in the state then that received the CARA grant, which was to work specifically on youth methamphetamine use and prescription drug use. You know, the sad news part of that, in order to apply, you had to have higher than the national average on youth methamphetamine use, and we did. And the good news is that we got $50,000 for 3 years to work to address that, and we have, and things have gone down already. So that's great again. So we are for the first time functioning without a full-time youth coordinator, though. So I will tell you that I'm working part of my time now for the statewide coalition of coalitions. I was actually helped them write a grant. They had asked me last March when I got done working full-time for here to help them write a grant. They got it, and then they were able to hire me part of the time so that I can continue working in Jones County, but help steer the statewide committee as well. One of the things is talking about leveraging these smaller grants, and how I feel like we've done such a good job with taxpayer funding is, you may have heard that Jones County was one of 3 counties in the state to receive a diversion grant, which is a great big grant that we haven't received yet, but we've got word that we've received it, and probably Chief Hoyt has told you about it. Some of you may have read about it in the paper before. You'll be hearing more about it soon because we're starting to get details about it. That's going to mean, how much is it per year for Jones County to hire somebody and to do this work? Is it up to 400,000, almost 400,000?
Yes, all the figures in there.
And that includes hiring a full-time person to run that. That won't be that will not go through our coalition at all. Our coalition just helped get that here. Okay, so it came about because our participation in the Alliance of Coalitions for Change, which is now the one I'm working for a little bit, got us in contact with Office of Drug Control Policy, because there are members of that, our state governor's, Office of Drug Control Policy, and Chief Hoyt and I went to some trainings on, methamphetamine reduction after we got that CARA grant, and we got connected with ODCP, and we got chosen then, along with Black Hawk County and Story County. They needed 3 geographically diverse areas, and so we got chosen to participate in that grant. It came out of opioid funding, but we included that our issue here is more methamphetamine, and this is more of adults, but we were looking at this as how can we help adults so that our children can be raised in healthier homes. So that's how it kind of comes around to our Safe and Healthy Youth Coalition. Anyway, I will hand you this. I don't want to, I have so many things I could tell you about, but I will just say that we are requesting the same amount that we requested last year at $3,000 for now. We are good with that $50,000 up through June of 2021, so that gets us through this next fiscal year 21. Here, I'll divide it in half this time. And this is our, with our percentage of coordination being down to 75%, it's a little less than what, but we are gonna keep looking for more grants and try to build that back up, but not expecting that we can make up all of that in Jones County, to be honest. And just some of the things, I'll pass these around really quick just for you to see the campaigns that the kids and adults together have worked on. They have a natural high campaign that the kids that we've probably seen in the billboards when we still had money for billboards. But anyway, and then we've got posters up around the school on methamphetamine things. So but we had a kind of positive campaign and then kind of a campaign that tells the truth about what's going on with those issues. And the other thing I wanted to just give you awareness is why it's so important we keep working on these things. And we're one of the only, what we really do is we always look at the data and try to really formulate plans that will make a difference. And we pay attention to what's happening, like with the vaping and those kinds of things. So we're working on those things too, even though we don't have a grant specifically. But we have our purse sales and our garage sales and our funding from our cities and county that together give us some leeway to be able to work on the things that are out there that we know need. We've had a huge increase, as the state and the nation have, in the vaping issue for youth. We've begun to see in Jones County, as well as in the state, an increase in 8th grade use for underage drinking again. And that we're concerned about that being where it's coming, where is that coming from? And we're thinking some of it is this huge increase in hard liquor that's being sold in our state. And anyway, and that's trickling down. And so we want to do things to be careful and not let that go the wrong direction again. And let's see, anything else? So we're always working on mental health at the same time, trying to, do positive things and encourage. So we got chosen to do this Lemonade for Life training with a bunch of, you'll be hearing more about it, but that's coming up March 12th and March 30th, a half-day training. It has to do with ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and how to basically make lemonade out of lemons, and if you had rough things going on in your childhood. But one of the things we try to do then is work on building resiliency. And last year, some of you who were members before may have gotten a calendar last year. This is the refill for those, and I accidentally probably ordered an extra 250, although 750 were only $100 to print at the prison, so that was awesome. But anyway, I have refills. I don't have any more of the magnets because I did not spend the money on the magnets. So if anybody needs a refill calendar, you just need an extra little calendar to have somewhere, feel free to have those. And anybody else needs one, let me know. I have a whole box and I hate to recycle all that paper. And that's it. We're doing life skills trainings in the schools. We're still doing alcohol compliance checks, and in fact was done today. And we had everybody but one pass in the county, I think. And we had tips trainings continue on. So anything else, Chief Hoyt, that I am forgetting besides, speaking of mental health, the one thing is we are really watching because our suicide ideation rate, not unlike other communities in Iowa and in the nation, but it's very high rate of increase of kids considering suicide. Like they report, again, anonymously in these, and it went up like from 2016 to 2018 for 6th graders, and it went up from 10% of kids reporting thinking in the past 12 months about committing suicide to 18% of them. 8th graders went from 12% up to 18%, and the 11th graders went from 16% up to 18%. So everybody increased, but especially the younger ones. And so we are, that's why we're working on this resiliency building and talking about digital literacy and all the different media things like that to it all reduce risk. And these are some of the things, we got free, things for prescription drugs, if anybody is especially homebound, and these cost like, did cost anyway, $4 out at Walmart. I think we got them free, all coalitions got like tons of these for free, but they're deactivation systems to get rid of your controlled substances in your home through like garbage if you can't get them taken to our police department and that kind of thing. We got timer caps before our DFC grant was done that are, that you can kind of protect your bottles if you had like a oxycodone prescription for a tooth, being out or something. You can put the prescription in this bottle, and each time you open it, it starts counting the seconds, then the minutes, then the hours. So like in the middle of the night, if you can't remember, did I take that at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m.? You guys can have one of these. If there's extra, please give them around to the group here, and a couple other things in there. If you feel free to take them. But if you know anybody particularly older or something who needs these deactivation systems, I have boxes of them in my office too that I don't have room for. So thank you. That's all. Maybe have
Thank you.
questions for me?
Jennifer, per the hard copy, paper you submitted, city council's requesting projected total at 8,000?
Yeah, and that's not yours. That's combined.
That's
Okay,
everybody?
yep, so
Who
I
are the
kinda did the
other-
per capita thing with the county, we gave 10,000 last year, we're asking for that again this year, and then 3,000, forgot to say that, 3,000 from Monticello, 3,000 from Anamosa, and we've asked all the other smaller communities for $500. We haven't received that in the past, so this is sort of my guess about where we'll come out again.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Jones County Jets,
I'm just gonna grab those posters back. Yeah, thank you.
as outlined, the Jones County Jets are requesting $1,500. East Central Intergovernmental Association,
I don't think we have anybody present. That's the program that supports the Hometown Pride program.
it appears in here they're requesting the fourth year local match commitment of $2,500.
Yeah.
So the Hometown Pride Partnership is part of that, or is there a different?
That is part of that, yep.
Did I miss anyone? I think
The
there's-
Iowa State University.
Jones County
Tourism.
And Jones County.
Sorry, I
Tourism.
flipped past that.
No, I think you're okay.
Not there, it looks like.
Oh, sorry.
And
There it
East
is.
Central.
There's
Extension
Iowa
service.
State Extension and then Jones County Tourism.
Yeah, but
Here from the Iowa State Extension.
I think it's just the same.
Requesting $500. Jones County Tourism.
Bob Hatcher with Jones County Tourism. We're at 213 East Main. We've moved our office. Please stop and visit us. We'd appreciate it. We're asking for the same we've asked the last 2 years, $12,500 from the motel tax, and 30 cents per capita of the population, which actually is 4,253 people. In Anamosa, that's the population minus the penitentiary, which is another $1,276. Well, what do we do with your money? We basically, our goal this last year was to get more people to stay overnight in Jones County. Why? If they stay overnight in Jones County, we not only get hotel motel tax, which is a small amount, about $6 or $7 a party. But the big thing is, if they stay overnight, they spend another $250. And last year, because of this program, we had 412 travel parties, more than the year before stay overnight. And with that, they spent another $100,000. So totally last year, tourists spent $23,741,000 in Jones County. That's an increase of 6% of the previous year. And the joy of that, or the good part of that whole thing was, virtually all of that money went to entertainment, attractions, and food. Didn't go to transportation for a change, where gas price fluctuates and price goes up and down. It went to that for food. So our goal again this year is to continue to get more people to stay overnight in Jones County. And to do that, we have to advertise in another circle, about that 175 to 250 mile circle outside of Jones County. Those are the people that come and stay overnight on it. So that's our goal. We also have another goal which is we call staycation, which we want to tell more people in Jones County about Jones County and to visit Jones County to spend their vacation here. To do that, we've started a group of open houses. We've had one already. We'll have 2 or 3 more this year. Open houses throughout the county explaining what there is to do and see in Jones County on it too. And the other goal that I sometimes hesitate to mention, the board said, you shall become more efficient in the media, social media, which is Facebook, etc. So I'm taking classes on that, and that's working fairly well. If you look at our Facebook, I hope you'll say it's working a little bit anyway on it too with that. So that's what we're asking for, and we appreciate your supporting us in the past. Would just mention again that you probably just heard that Ragbri coming to Anamosa again this year, staying overnight. We have a tractorcade coming to Jones County. It's going to spend 3 days in Jones County. We have a car tour, a steam car tour that's coming from all over the Midwest, coming to Jones County for tour. And then we have a bunch of bus tours, and we have barn tours this summer coming. So we've got a lot of people coming to Jones County to see what we have available to do. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Tom.
Bob.
Is there any other requests present that I would have missed? So I would just like to summarize that the council cannot take action. It was just to gain information on your request. I'm sure we will do through budget review everything possible to meet your request, but it is going to be a long drawn out process to make sure we don't over expend our income. But thank you for taking your time this evening to approach and give us more detail regarding the various organizations and what they do. (7.3) Discussion of the downtown assessment report.
Well, leave it up to you guys how detailed you wanna get. I've haven't really dug into it. I've read through the report. I think it's overall a good starting point for making improvements to the downtown area, and I look forward to hopefully seeing that through as part of committee that I'd recommend forming to do that. But other than that, I guess I don't know what other. There are 7 themes in their report. I don't know if you want to get into specifics of any of those tonight, or
Could you provide detail on who you would prefer or recommend to be part of this task force from the city side?
yeah, it's in the resolution, that the next item, but I recommend myself, Jones County Economic Development Director, the Chamber Director, a representative from either the council or the mayor, and then I would recommend that those 4 appoint 3 additional members that are either downtown property owners or business owners.
Just for everybody here, you might wanna just briefly touch on the 7 themes.
Sure.
Give them a little, cause some people may not have read this report yet or seen it.
For those that are interested, the report is available on the city's website, but I will go through those 7 themes. And to, I guess, reiterate the process, we had the five member assessment team present last November. They spent 2.5 days in the community. They toured the whole community and took a walking tour of the downtown, visited with lots of businesses and people that were just out and about, as well as other community members. So I think they put in a lot of work to develop these recommendations. They also gave an initial report presentation the last day of that they were here, and that is also available on the city website. So their first theme, they talk about the signage in the community. One of the action steps they talked about was to allow and I think really promote kind of a uniform, not uniform, but a design for blade signs in the community to encourage pedestrian traffic in the downtown. Right now, most of the signs face the street, designed for auto traffic. But there's not there are a few businesses that do have blade signs, but the majority don't. And we should recommending providing some regulations on those. Make sure that they're high enough. You know, people aren't hitting their head on them, but they recommended those. Usage of window clings and just other forms of public art downtown, I think, were kind of the action steps they provided in that theme for signage. The second theme, which I guess personally hit home with me, was attitude. And they talked about just generally a lot of the conversations they had with people who expressed a sense of negativity about the community and specifically the downtown, and how there needs to be a specific effort to address that and build some positivity. Some of the action steps, making sure that we publicly recognize our people and projects when they do succeed, not just focusing when things don't. And then just developing, working together to promote each other and the community as a whole. And that includes, you know, the different businesses and whatnot, not just the city itself, but the community. This one seems like, you know, kind of obvious, but it's important. Just the buildings themselves downtown clearly need a lot of care, a lot of investment. They were made aware that we've participated in the Community Catalyst program, and we're working on an application for the Downtown Revitalization Grant. Some of the action steps they recommended was establish a building code for the city of Anamosa. Establish a property maintenance code, which goes past the point of doing an improvement, but also maintaining the building. An update, a review and possible update of zoning codes. Discuss developing design guidelines for the downtown area, which would basically just be additional regulation on those downtown buildings, so above and beyond what already exists in the zoning code, to ensure that those buildings aren't modified in ways that harm the character of the district. Establishing a registry of vacant buildings. They have a lot of recommendations here, so I won't go through them all, but look into the DNR Brownfield program, consider local mini grants. I think this is an important one, but engaging, making sure that we're making use of the second story buildings, particularly second story residential. Something we gotta work on. They mentioned there's specific grants for second story housing, I think a new program coming out. Theme 4 is streets and parking. There were a few sessions, I sat in most of the meetings that they had with the different groups. And there were a few sessions where parking is a very prevalent discussion point. I think there are things we can do to improve there. There were some different ideas thrown out, and I think that's something that needs further exploration. I'm not sure if they had specific recommendations there or not. They did discuss one element that impacted our community was just the length of our district. We have kind of a strip design. I mean, you see different downtowns form different ways. Some are more of a square kind of deal, but with the strip and the length of our district and kind of the average person is willing to walk 1,000 feet to get to their destination, and the length of the downtown can impact that. Theme 5 was just the downtown experience. Basically improving things like street amenities, public art, events, plantings, things that give it unique character. Things that make people remember the area. That was another discussion. I don't know if they specifically mentioned this, but other past discussions I've had was talking about how there's not a whole lot of public space downtown for people to just be. So that's one thing we may look at, is providing more places for events and people to just spend time downtown. If they're downtown, they're more likely to spend time in their businesses downtown. Next theme. They did talk about the plantings. I know we've talked about the flower beds and the trees before. They gave us a few recommendations on breeds of tree that might fit the community well. They mentioned they support the trees, just making sure that we get the right trees, and that may not be the case right now. They talked about trying to install some signs on buildings that told the story of those buildings. You could even create kind of like a self-guided tour, like a from building to building, so tourists could learn about the history of the community. Theme 6 was communication. I think just being better about communicating the initiatives that we're doing, getting all the different groups that are working to improve the downtown on the same page, and being more uniform in our messaging. I think it can be easy to get different groups working separately, and can kind of scramble the message. Their last theme was just local implementation, and they specifically suggest implementing a task force. They mentioned a similar structure to what's in the resolution. And basically that task force would be to work on the rest of their recommendations and any other. I think it's important that it's broad enough to work on general improvement of the downtown. I guess, are there any other takeaways that you guys had in reviewing it?
Have you had any feedback from anybody on the results of the assessment now that's been published?
I've heard from a few people that think it was a very good report and are excited to see things start moving.
So your resolution fulfills their step 7,
Yep.
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah.
Is the council to point to move forward with Jacob's recommendation of a 7-member team task force consisting of the city administrator, Jones County Economic Development Director, Chamber of Commerce Director, and an elected official from the city, along with 3 additional individuals, property or business owners.
So moved.
second. Do you want the elected official appointed tonight, or can that be done at a,
I think it could be done tonight, but it could also be done later.
because I'm going to assume that the 3 property owners, how are we going to arrive at who those three are.
I thought it would be left up to the committee to decide that. I mean, it should probably be advertised and considered based on some different things. One thing they mentioned was, while it's important to have those property owners, if this group does become involved in doing local grants, the issue is if you end up with certain, property owners that are included would have a harder time applying for those because then they have a conflict of interest. So you might have to look at people who are less likely to apply for those. Not that somebody would totally be removed from applying if they were on the committee, but it makes it just a little more difficult.
Conflict.
They would definitely have to abstain from any of those decisions if they were interested.
Okay.
I would like to think that the four individuals could, in some means solicit, reach out to who from the downtown locale has interest of serving, knowing that it is a commitment to advance the overall of the community. I would think those four could determine and then just bring it back to the council at that time when they, in a sense, have filled those positions. Along with that, I would prefer to identify the lone fourth individual tonight. So you put a little add-on at the end of your motion there, Kay, we could be good to go.
Well, it's hard, cause it's gonna take a lot of time for the individual to fulfill this commitment, a lot of meetings and a lot of commitment. And my inclination is to suggest it be Jeff because he has more energy than the rest of us. How's that for getting out of a tight spot? Well, maybe you.
Well, I agree about Jeff, but it's whether or not Jeff wants to take it on. I mean, that's a question that
He would have to answer, definitely.
he would have to answer. If he wants to think about it and wait until the next meeting, that's fine. But that's up to him.
I don't wanna commit tonight.
Okay. That is perfectly fine.
It is.
Understand that?
I definitely also.
Don't wanna put you on the spot too much yet.
So we'll just back it up and leave it at that 7-person structure, and naming the fourth
Maybe the person
on the
next.
city
Yep.
side. Hopefully at the next meeting. Is there any public comment on 7.3? We have a motion on the floor from Kay, second by Rich, to develop the 7-person task force consisting of the city administrator, director of Jones County Economic Development, director of Anamosa Chamber of Commerce, and an elected official, along with 3 additional property/business owners from the downtown district. Is there any more discussion on the council's behalf? All those in favor identify with aye.
Roll.
Oh, another roll.
I'm sorry.
Lockhart,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
So we just fulfilled 7.4. Now move to 7.5. Discussion and possible action on downtown snow removal.
Leanna, do you want to start our discussion?
Leanna Boone, Chamber Director. First of all, I tried to find online the policy of Anamosa's for snow removal. mostly for the downtown. I couldn't find it online, maybe I just missed it. But, we have a lot of concern from business owners, the way the snow is being plowed. It's, the way it is, it takes up all the or the parking. It's pushed into the parking areas, and when people actually do try to go downtown, they have to walk in the snow, they have to walk across big mounds of snow to try to get to the businesses. And I really feel like that's hurting our downtown businesses. Myself, 2 weeks ago on a Saturday night, we had our Christmas party downtown. We tried to go, we parked on Main Street, I opened the truck door, and I had to squeeze out because there was so much snow, piled up, and then I had to walk over it. I don't think that we can expect older people especially to have to walk over that ice and snow. A lot of the businesses do try to, shovel a path so people can get in, but then people park in front of that path that's shoveled. I know a lot of years ago, the city spent a lot of money on the streetscapes, and when all that snow and ice is piled up on there, and then later on, the city comes and tries to remove all that with equipment, it damages the brick that's there. So I think that's how a lot of that damage got done. I'm just asking that maybe something different can be done as far as a policy. I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. I'm not, trying to single anybody out, but I just think maybe there's a better way that we can do it. I know that, I called Monticello, and I know that we did that years ago here. Everything was pushed to the middle. And then later on, when it didn't affect businesses or heavy traffic, that snow would be hauled away. Maybe we can look at doing something like that again. I did, print out some things from a couple other cities, their policies. One is from someplace not in Iowa, but the other one is from, Maquoketa's, their snow policy. I tried to kind of highlight what they do. And it's what I talked about when everything is pushed into the middle and then hauled away at a later date. I'm just asking that you consider that for downtown.
I will say, I walked to the church on Friday? Yeah, Friday afternoon. And not only was there snow piled up against the curb, the water was running this deep. It was horrible. And there weren't that many cars there. But if I had been coming downtown to do anything, I would have gone right on by. And then somebody mentioned to me then later on Saturday night when they were removing it, then it was like, whatever you call it, when you had to go this way to get around a pile and then this way to get around a pile. It was just, again, horrible.
Right.
Not a good situation at all.
Well, and I was contacted Saturday by several businesses because, the previous week it had been, I think they tried to remove it on Saturday. This weekend it was left there on Saturday, so it was really difficult for anybody to park downtown. And then I think maybe they tried to remove it Saturday night.
At 9:30.
So,
That was when it was,
right. So, I mean, we want people downtown, we want businesses open, but when we do stuff like this, it's not helping those businesses.
I would like to see us go back to pushing it to the middle,
Yes,
hauling it off during non-peak hours.
definitely.
Monticello uses a tractor and snow blower, from what I understand, that they rent from Creminga when they need it. And that's what they're doing, from what I understand. They push it into the middle and then they just blow it into a truck and haul it away. So it's not there that very long. It might work out if we did something like that too, for that matter. I know Creminga isn't in this town, but, what's the possibility for 3 months or whenever the major snows come, for us to, rent a tractor and a snow blower or something that would do that, and just have it here when we need it. I can't imagine it costs a whole lot to do that for a period of 3 months. I'd be glad to go talk to Creminga about the cost of that if we did something like that.
Well, I'm not so sure that we probably don't have
I would think we.
some equipment that we couldn't utilize if we,
Like that big end loader?
several end loaders and skid loaders
Yeah,
and so forth, that we couldn't manage to do it, a lot of it ourselves.
yeah.
We have 2 end loaders, we have multiple dump trucks, got skid
Yep.
loaders.
Well, it's
So-
what used to be done. We'd come in at, so I work for the city, 2 in the morning. End loader start shoving, trucks hauling, keep working. You know, like I said, then you don't have the traffic, about
Do
5,
that route.
6 o'clock traffic comes, but you can go from about Garnavillo down to maybe Davis.
Yeah.
If you got 3, 4 trucks hauling, you can
You
get a
get
lot
it-
done
you
with
get
that
it
end
done,
loader.
can't you? Yep.
You know, and it's your own expense, then, you know, guys can go home at noon if there's no more snow,
It'd
but
be
at least,
better if it was done after hours like that.
well, that's it, you don't have much traffic. You know, that's the way they used to, not saying that's perfect, but you can, without renting other equipment.
Just have to make sure the cross sections, cross streets are opened up so that you can get from one side of town to the other side of town, and
Yeah,
that would be easy enough accomplished.
So John, then, if it was prior practice, any ideas to the reasons to go away from doing it that way?
different heads of street, I guess, I don't know why it ever, cause the, 2 or 3 different bosses I had, that's just what I, unless it was a big one, then they would hire the quarry to come in, and they come in at midnight, but we were also in at 2, 3 o'clock shoving forward, all them down to Maine. Then they would have some big, cause they'd bring a road grader in, and they'd do most of the hauling then. But like this one, the city did it all themselves,
Yeah,
Is-
it wasn't that much.
yeah.
Has Streetscape project minimized that, space, that, the catch area for the snow until it could be
No.
removed?
It's not that bad. You can work, it's not the handiest, but you can work that and get it shoved down. You got a little time between loads. The guy in the loaders can just keep pushing if the people have it into the street. I mean, you don't go up on the brick or anything, so you don't wanna ruin that, but then just keep, like I said, working. And we did it with 3 trucks and 1 end loader. In 4 hours, we could go from, like I said, Garnavillo to Davis. Then maybe you'd work later on some of the side stuff, but the main street you'd have pretty well done.
And then you were still able to maintain opening of like the emergency routes?
Oh, yeah, they, I mean, they was done, this was after, you know, the next, say it quit yesterday, why, probably tonight, we'd be up there, you know, and start, like I said, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And-
So it wasn't the first priority after the snow?
No, you get all your emergency, you get that done first, yeah, and you might have a day or 2 that you got snow, but then usually somebody might start working when there's not much traffic, come up with an end loader and start shoving it to one end, you know, so when you did come in, you could just start loading and get some of the street cleaned earlier, so it could start thawing.
Maybe something we should talk to the, street department about, and see if we can't work something out to do that.
I definitely think we,
I think we should.
we'll have a discussion with the street department and work on, I think it'd be good to implement a policy, and bring that back to you guys for approval.
Keep the downtown businesses happy.
Well, and the client's happy. I wasn't very
clients,
happy when I
yeah.
was walking Friday.
Yeah.
It was not nice.
It's a mess. It is that. Well, I think when you're developing this policy or working on it, talk to John in depth more, especially about how they used to do things, because back then it worked.
Yeah.
So,
And then the streetscapes was done too, I mean, it wasn't before, we
yeah.
worked with that, so.
That's, the snow was moved to the center post streetscapes
Yeah.
being.
You still had the nodes there, so you had to work around
Well,
that.
when you had the, like I said, the big snows and the quarry come in, then they brought a road and everything went to the center. We never pushed to the center. It was all plowed and the businesses got in the street, then you just took the end loader and kept pushing, you know, to the end and work it down there. If you're careful, you might get a little bit on the sidewalk, but it wouldn't be very much. That could be pushed off and wouldn't bother. But yeah, it just took some time. I mean, 3 trucks, you had a little time between loads to work, you know, keep dragging stuff together and get get it going, and like I said, from 2:30 till probably 5:30, you had biggest part done. And then, like I said, you'd maybe work Ford or Booth, either way, then you work later. You let the school traffic and stuff get through, and then you can work on that and get it done.
Well, I know there is some public comment. At this time, I want to restate that as you approach the podium, you state your name and your address. Keep your comments as brief as you can. Direct them only to 7.5, the discussion on the downtown snow removal. I also ask that you be courteous to the elected officials and show the respect and professionalism that the seats deserve. Any public comment at this time?
Tom Durgan, property owner downtown. I am glad to see you guys are gonna do that, keep it to the center, I hope that's where we're going anyway. I'd also like to ask to maybe have the trucks slow down. It's, to me, is a safety issue with these plows coming down these streets at the speed, and I completely understand the 1, 2, 3, 4 trucks. I've plowed, I've done it, been there, I understand that, but the speed of these trucks on Main Street, they're not only, I think, going too fast for what they're doing, but just the amount of snow and slush that they throw is incredible. That's probably the biggest thing, is just get them to slow down. It's just, there's too much, and then there's a couple alleys that they plow. I had to dig someone out the other day, they couldn't get their, it's an emergency exit, they couldn't get their doors open. That's something else. I've had one of my buildings that had the doorknobs. By the time I seen it, the doorknobs are covered on the building. The buildings can't take that. They can't take the salt, they can't take the ice and the snow on these buildings. They're old buildings, they can't take it. So there's a couple other areas besides Main Street, but I think we're moving in the right direction. I hope this is what we're gonna do, is plow it to the center. And I mean, we're gonna upset some people because they can't get through Main Street. I'm sure it's gonna be a little bit of a fight and a battle, but all said and done, I think it's the best way to go. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Good, thank you.
Anyone else? Does the council want to put this into a motion or table until further discussion can be held with the streets department?
Well, I'd like to see a proposed, policy on this at the next meeting.
But I don't know what we have.
There may not be one,
Well, that could be.
because this street superintendent is not necessarily doing what the last street superintendent did, so there must not be a policy then that he's following.
No, that could be.
So,
Yeah. that
I think
makes
we
sense.
need to develop one, and so that no matter who's sitting in that position, they have that policy to follow.
I would agree.
So can we table this and have and it may take more than 2 weeks to get a policy, but I wanna see some type of action in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Or at least see a first draft.
Sure.
Get a preliminary
Agree with that.
report first, next meeting.
Next meeting, and add to that to see if Greg could be here. That'd be nice to see him here for that.
Yeah.
He would have been here tonight, but he had a personal conflict. We will have something to discuss further at the next meeting, and hopefully it'll be ready for approval.
Good.
Okay.
At least something to discuss.
So I personally have taken inquiries on this agenda item, subject matter. over the course of the last 2 to 3 weeks. I understand the downtown businesses' struggles with this. I am also confident that somehow between the city and the downtown business owners, building owners, that we can come to some type of common ground here. It is also a commitment on the storefront property owners that, you know, their snow has to be removed from building to curb as well. But, you know, I believe we can get to something that will please everybody as well as keep the streets open and navigable. So I look forward to what this policy becomes. I would also ask that there be no sidebar conversation during the council meetings. It can be interruptive. So if you want to address the council, please come to the microphone. Do not do it amongst yourselves sitting out there. Council good with the direction we're going on 7.5?
Yes.
Yes.
7.6, approval of final plat, Chamber Drive Business Park.
Passing out a letter of recommendation from Snyder Associates, who reviews the plats. This has been reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission, who has recommended approval and is also recommended for approval from the engineers.
So I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Being as this is final approval, would now be a time to have the discussion and possibly put in restrictions as far as parking and also where mailboxes could be located. Well, isn't this covering Meadow Ridge?
This is just the business park, so it's just
Just on, off
there's
Chamber?
there's
Just,
currently 2 buildings, and there will eventually be a 3rd building there on the left-hand side, or as you're going in. It would be the west side of Chamber. It's not the full residential development.
Okay.
Randy, is there something you want to add to this?
I just wanted to mention that
Could you come all the way to the phone, microphone?
I'm Randy Williams with MMS Consultants. Bryce couldn't be here this evening, so he asked me to stop by. We submitted a site plan on this property first, and so a lot of those questions as far as parking and whatnot, I think were addressed at that time. This is just establishing those lots that those buildings sit on. And if you have any other questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Could you restate what that site plan indicates as far as parking along the frontage for these, the business?
We didn't cover the parking on
None
the
at all?
street. The intent was to provide enough parking on the property, off-street parking.
On the site plan we provided per usages that we could establish at the time, because they weren't really established, we worked with the city and established parking on each individual lot for each individual business, based on the city's current zoning requirements.
The 2 buildings that are there have a good amount of off-street
Oh, yeah.
parking.
Any further discussion on the council's part? Any public comment on 7.6?
Thank you.
Just, Tom Durgan, property owner, just real quick on the mailbox thing, just maybe to mention, can you say anything about that, or is that a federal postal thing? Just want to put that out there in case you put it in there and then you had And I had someone a while back that had some real communication issues with, and everything had to go through the post office to get these boxes sent, so.
Thanks.
Cody Schaefer, 219 North Ford. Per your ordinance, doesn't it state parking requirements on usage? Zoning?
It has off-street parking requirements, yeah.
Yeah, already in your ordinance?
Yes.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
So we have a motion by Rich, second by Kay to approve the final plat on Chamber Drive Business Park. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Request for 7.7, request for waiver of plating requirements, Northern View Acres.
If you couldn't tell from the map in the packet, this is just southwest maybe of the 151 intersection going towards Amber. It's coming down between 151 and Circle Drive. It's within the 2-mile boundary, and that's why we have to provide the waiver. But it's pretty far out. I think it'd be unlikely, or at least a very long time from now, that we'd ever annex that far, and so I would recommend, and the Planning and Zoning Board has reviewed and recommended, that we waive those plating requirements for this residential development. I think there's 5 lots. They're pretty large lots, more rural in nature.
We won't be supplying sewer or water to them.
I don't think so. It got brought up in the planning and zoning that to provide water out there, we'd need another tower because it's the increased elevation. We couldn't provide pressure out there. So that for sure we wouldn't be looking at doing anytime soon.
Okay.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Jeff, were you part of planning and zoning when you reviewed this?
I was. I did not sit in on this though. It's been since I've been on council.
They met last week, I think.
So by waiving, we forego any requirements that can be placed. We, in a sense, have to follow what the county.
Yeah. You could, I think, if you wanted to waive only part of them, I think you could, but I'm not sure if there's anything that we would require of them. I thought even about sidewalks, but I think that even doesn't make sense, especially with the terrain out there. It's pretty hilly. Again, it would eventually lead to nowhere because there's lots of lots in between that and the rest of the city. So this is, again, north of the commercial park by quite a ways.
Just want to make sure we understand that we, in a sense, are giving up whatever control we would have. I just want to be clear with that. Any public comment? If there's no further council discussion, we have a motion by Rich, second by John, to waive the city's plating requirements on the Northern View acres. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries unanimous. 7.8, appointment of Tyler McCarthy to the Anamosa Volunteer Fire Department.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Council need time to discuss? Public have any comment? A motion by Rich, second by Kay, to appoint Tyler McCarthy to the Anamosa Volunteer Fire Department. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries unanimous. 7 7.9, beer and liquor licenses. A, renewal of Class E liquor license, Class B wine permit, Class C beer permit with Sunday sales privileges, Giggle Juice Liquor Station.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Public comment. Motion by Kay, second by Jeff, to renew the Class E liquor license for Giggle Juice. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries unanimous. 8.0, City Administrators Report. Oh, I'm sorry, 7.10, review and approval of current bills.
Again, my only comment here would be to remove the MI2 bill from the rest of them before approval.
I move to approve the bills with the exception of the MI2 operating systems bill.
Second.
Is there any further discussion or question on the bills? Public comment? For 7.10, we have a motion by Rich, second by Jeff, to approve the bills as submitted, less the MI2 invoice. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. 8.0, City Administrators Report.
First thing I want to address is there's been made aware of some public confusion. We've received some phone calls and then recently seen some questions or theories on social media about a change in the utility billing. Last year, we did approve, had 3 readings of an ordinance, 3 separate meetings to restructure the utility rates. Those went into effect in December, which reflected on your January bill. It actually reduced the amount of the base rate for water and sewer. Sewer was 24, and I believe is 18 now, and water was 1997 is now 15. The water portion of the bill used to be combined, both the base and the usage charges together on one line. Now they're broken out into 2 separate lines, so you see the water base of $15 and the water usage charge on a separate line. For some reason, a mistake on our part, the water baseline did not have a title, so it was blank. It just had a $15 charge, but that is the water base charge. Everything on the bill, aside from the landfill payment, is going towards either the water or wastewater utilities. The landfill charge is going towards the landfill. We'll be trying to get out more information on that, but just want to make it clear here tonight that that $15 on the bill without a title is the water-based charge. And over time, those will continue to decline. For the residential anyway, those will eventually be over several years. The base charge itself will go down to $5 for water and sewer. So while the usage charge will increase over that time, what that does is, again, put more emphasis on something users can control rather than the base charge, something that they can't. So any other questions on utility bills? We will have a special council meeting January 30th, this Thursday. It'll be a budget workshop meeting, so no action items, but just reviewing department budgets, and then another budget workshop on Tuesday, February 4th. Tonight the council appointed Galen Capron to fill the vacancy until March 3rd. On March 3rd, there will be a special election. There will be the question over the police and fire station projects, but also a question for the city council vacancy through the end of the term. If you are interested in running for that spot, the deadline to file your papers is February 7th at 5 p.m., and those must be turned into the Jones County Auditor. We do have blank forms here at City Hall or on the city website, but those have to be turned in with the Jones County Auditor. Finally, I think it's already been said tonight, but we were announced as a overnight host city for Ragbri. The event, let's see, somewhere I think.
We're July 23rd.
We're July 23rd. The event's the 19th through the 25th. So that'll be something we'll be working to prepare for over the next few months. So that is all I've got, unless there are questions.
I do have one question. You brought up the vote on March 3rd, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Have you got any informational meetings planned yet?
I tentatively have some dates, have not fully finalized those. Let me look. Tentatively have a meeting for February 13th and then February 26th.
Cutting it kind of tight.
That was, for the most part, a recommendation by Shive Hattery, who was gonna be involved with the presentation side of it. To, my understanding was they thought it would be better to have it closer to the election date.
I originally discussed 4 meetings, and in discussion, they kind of thought that might be too many, as well as, again, staying closer to the meeting so it's fresh in people's mind, or closer to the election.
Well, and I know we talked.
We're gonna primarily rely on them, try to keep the city itself from we can't advocate for it, so it's gotta be an information-only meeting. And so I think it'll be easier to do that if they're presenting on those facts.
And that's fine from that aspect, but we also talked about the fire department.
Mhm.
Who's going to present for them? Who's going to have information for them?
Still developing that. It'll either be, probably be a combination between myself and Chief Shada presenting those. Again, we'll stick to the facts. So I think it's important, again, you as elected officials, you're paid by the meeting, but you're not paid by like an employee, so you're able to get out there and advocate, and I think that'll be important, and I hope that we have other community members who see the value in it and advocate as well. But
Anything else for Jacob? 9.0, Mayor and Council Reports. 9.1, Council Reports on Boards and Commissions.
I went to the library board meeting and we celebrated the new sign, we toured the library and talked budget.
No one else has anything? 10.0, public with business with the council on items not on the agenda. Again, I'd like to take this opportunity to remind you that the council will not take any action on what you want to present under 10.0. It needs to go through the public meetings law. I also ask that you direct all your inquiries to the council in a professional manner. Please come to the podium and state your name and your address.
Tom Durgan, property owner downtown. You kind of threw me for a loop on the snow removal earlier. It was almost too easy. I mean, so, but in the interim, if we have a snowstorm that's gonna be coming here in the next couple weeks, is there any suggestions on how we can handle this? So I like to keep my sidewalks clean to concrete. And I clean them, I treat them. 5 minutes later, I got snow and slush crept to my building, so I scrape everything off that I just did, so, like I said earlier, I understand the staggered trucks. Cause I didn't have enough time to go on this earlier, so I figured, okay, but, so, whatever that last truck is, that is, if we get in this position, we have to push snow until we get this resolved. Can we get either the first, second, third, whatever that last truck is, that's by the curb to slow down? So everybody is not pushing all the slush off. I mean, when you got slush hitting 8 foot into a building, that's fast. And, and like I said earlier, the safety part of that is just, kinda risky.
Need to slow down.
You
So-
don't wanna stand out there, trust me.
No, so, and, if I did understand correctly, Jacob, cause I think we do auto pay on water bills, but I like that they're going down, gives me more lunch money.
Thanks, Tom.
Evening, Bob Simonson, 302 East Plum Street. 3 or 4 meetings ago, I talked with Rich Crump about some damage that I had done to some personal property. It was my understanding during a meeting, not under the agenda, but the city administrator was directed to take care of it. It has not been taken care of, and it's been, 6 weeks, 5 weeks? This damage happened August 26th of last year. 5 months is way too long for waiting for this to happen. I'm wondering what's gonna happen. I'm not asking you to tell anybody to do anything, I want an answer, I'd like an answer.
I'd like it placed on next meeting's agenda.
I'll be here.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Nancy Schaefer, 803 North Division Court. Concerning this reference to the water bills and stuff, does everybody in City Hall understand what that charge is? Because the information that was given out seemed to be incorrect, and the original post has 92 comments on it and 24 shares. So, I think maybe there needs to be more education in City Hall on what that $15 was for, because they said they specifically asked the water department, the $15 per month add-on to your water bill will go towards improvements to City Hall and the current police station.
Yeah,
This information was given by the water department.
I don't know who they're referring to, but
Well, there's
no
only
one
one water
authorized to.
department.
Well, and the water department itself doesn't handle the billing, that's done in the administration,
Well,
so.
They called City Hall, so City Hall and the water department, I think, is the first window that you see when you walk in, so. But 92 shares, or 92 comments and 24 shares.
It needs to
That's a
be,
lot of people discussing this.
it needs to be clarified and clarified fast.
Yeah.
And I can say in my department that nobody has ever talked like that to any customers. I restrict that from happening.
Is there any other additional comments from the public? At this time, I would ask the council to amend this evening's agenda, taking 11.0 budget work sessions, 11.1 and 11.2, and move them after, as printed, 12.5. So we can go into closed sessions and not have legal on the clock, and have everyone sitting here that is part of 12.1, 12.2, 12.3, and 12.4 until we go through the budgets.
You need a motion?
I would like that.
I'll make a motion to amend the 11.0, 11.1, 11.2 to commence after 12.5.
Second.
Alan, did you second that?
Yes, sir.
Motion by Rich, second by Alan to move 11.0, 11.1, 11.2 down the list after 12.5. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous.
Hold that for him, as that's a return to the.
12.0, closed session.
I guess it's kind of low.
You need a motion for that?
So the council has returned to open session. Legal counsel is going to give us an update on this topic.
As everyone here knows, the water treatment expansion project resulted in several claims, and I use that term somewhat loosely, by subcontractors and material men that hadn't been paid by the general contractor, Kalachi Construction. Rather than litigate all of those issues, we are recommending a settlement agreement and release that would essentially make sure all the subs get paid from the about $200,000 that's left in the city funds right now that has not been paid out of to Kalachi. $120,000 of that $200,000 will be used by the city to pay some of the subs. Kalachi will be responsible to pay the remainder of the subs, and that as a result of this agreement, the city, once it's completed and all the subs are paid and we have claim waivers or lien waivers from all of the subcontractors, then the city can close out the project and be done with it. The remainder of the $200,000 that has yet been paid to Kalachi will remain with the city. I think I misstated that. The $200,000 that's remains with the city. The $120,000, as already mentioned, will be used to pay subs. The remaining $80,000 and some change, the city can use that money for what it wants, with primarily the expectation, or I would expect it to be considered to be payment for the additional engineering fees that resulted from the delayed construction, and would cover at least part of the attorney fees. And so we would recommend the settlement agreement and release that's been drafted and provided to the mayor and council, and so that we can get that signed and hopefully get it signed by Kalachi in the next week or so, or less.
Okay. I will make a motion to approve the settlement, authorizing the mayor and whoever else needs to sign it.
Second.
Does the council need time to further discuss? I I don't know how much we can go into detail with the public. So unless our legal counsel or Jacob objects, I will give you a chance to inquire. And keep in mind, it's gonna be very limited on the feedback that you get.
Are you asking for public comment or?
Yes.
Okay.
Nancy Schaefer, 803 North Division Court, Schaefer Plumbing and Heating. So, how did you determine how much each contractor is going to be paid?
I can try to answer that. First of all, the regardless of what it is owed, the subcontractor should get paid. We have a list, and I can show it to you in a moment if you'd like, of, I don't know how many subcontractors are on there, but we used claims that were filed, we used even emails to HR Green that were sent saying, hey, we haven't been paid this invoice. I don't know if some might have been sent to Jacob, I don't remember that, but from any source that we had, we used that number that was given to us by that particular subcontractor as the number. But if it's more than that, and it's genuinely owed, then in this agreement, Kalachi is responsible to pay that.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Sure.
Oh,
Why, is there any other public comment on this? Nancy, I'm gonna go ahead and proceed with this while you're reviewing. So we have a second, or excuse me, a motion by Rich, a second by John, to proceed with resolution for the settlement as it was submitted by legal counsel, to pay the portion and to be, and to actually resolve this. Do we have to roll vote, or is this all those in favor signify with aye?
Aye.
Oppose? This motion carried unanimously. 12
Thank you.
point, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving to 12.3 is a closed session.